Hi, in this episode, we recount the scandal that is now rocking Israel around the resignation of the Advocate General. While we were recording this episode, a push message arrived that made it seem like she had committed suicide. In the interim, it was found out that she had not, and she was found alive and healthy. So here's our version of what is rocking Israel right now. Israel Updates with Gadi Taub and Mike Duran. Hello and welcome to Tablet's Israel Update. I'm Gadi Taub in Tel Aviv, and with me is the Lord Privy Seal, Mike Duran in Washington, D.C. Shalom, Mike.
Yeah, you've made me the Lord Privy Seal a couple of times now.
Yeah, but the other time we went back to recording it again because I pronounced it wrong. So we never did it again. So you're the Lord Privy Seal for the first time now, Mike. I hereby I forgot my sword, but I'm making you a lord as we speak.
Arise, Sir Mike.
Arise, Sir Mike. It's been 2 years and 26 days since the war began. Maybe it has already ended, or maybe it will be renewed. We will talk about this too, but there are urgent and earth-shaking things happening in Israel with the resignation of, they call her the Advocate General. I think she should be called the Attorney General of the IDF. Major General Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi will talk about this at length, but there are other things too on the American scene, which we will discuss all this after the news.
But I still want to talk about my title.
Please do.
I was on the phone the other day with a friend, and he was, while talking to me, he was also talking to his dog. But I didn't realize it. And he kept saying, big dog, big dog, big dog. And I thought he was calling me big dog. And I said to him, you know, nobody ever called me big dog before, but I kind of like it. And he said, no, I was talking to my dog.
So, you know, that in Baltimore slang, dog replaces man. So I can't make the Baltimore accent, but I know this from The Wire. They call each other, hey, dog. So maybe your friend is from Baltimore, or else he has a dog.
But I want to be big dog now. Like I'm gonna start calling I'm gonna refer to myself in the third person as big dog. Like the Big Lebowski, in the Big Lebowski, he calls himself the dude. And then he speaks about
I remember that. But if I can pull something out of my knowledge of crime in Chicago, not just in Baltimore, then in Southgate in Chicago, there's an amazing book called Off the Books by Sudhir Venkatesh about the black market of the Chicago ghetto. And there, the head of the gang in the neighborhood is called Big Cat. So we have a dog from Baltimore and a big cat, Mike. You can combine them and become the first big dog in Washington, D.C., the big dog of foreign policy.
Okay, so Big Dog is now going to read the news. Are you ready?
Yeah.
On Wednesday, tensions escalated on the Lebanon border as the IDF raided Hezbollah-linked sites, prompting Lebanese forces to boost deployments. U.S. patience with Beirut is running out over Hezbollah's failure to disarm. Ambassador Tom Barrack, who's the ambassador to Turkey, but also the special envoy to Lebanon, warned of dire consequences if no direct negotiations occur. Reports indicate Hezbollah is restocking weapons and smuggling rockets from Syria, with the IDF considering expanding strikes, including possibly targeting the Dahia again, the Dahia being the headquarters of Hezbollah in Beirut. On Thursday, an estimated 200,000 Haredim demonstrated in Jerusalem against the proposed military draft legislation, framing
ultra-Orthodox, just for those of you who don't know what Haredim is.
The Haredis, in case you don't know what ultra-Orthodox or Haredim is, demonstrated in Jerusalem against the proposed military draft legislation. The rally turned violent, Gadi, with clashes involving police, underscoring the deep societal divides over conscription. A poll shows a majority of Israelis oppose the draft bill, which critics call a draft-dodging measure. I want to get your view on that later. On Thursday, October 30, two more hostage bodies were handed over by Hamas. With Gaza operations winding down and living hostages returned, Prime Minister Netanyahu now faces a political dilemma. He can't call elections while security remains unstable or while the ultra-Orthodox draft issue is unresolved. Coalition priorities favor securing Haredi support as Hamas is believed to be withholding hostage body locations to protect tunnel networks. On Saturday, the U.S. advanced an interim stage of President Trump's Gaza plan for December, deploying a multinational. The plan calls for deploying a multinational force along the yellow line to separate IDF and Hamas forces. This aims to pressure Hamas to disarm and hand over power, with forces also securing humanitarian zones like al-Mawasi. Israel believes Hamas is delaying the hostage body returns in order to maintain leverage. Yesterday, also, military advocate general, Major General Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi, Gadi, as you mentioned, resigned after admitting that she authorized leaking a video from the Sde Teiman detainee abuse investigation. Sde Teiman detainee abuse investigation to the media. A legal battle escalates as Justice Minister Yariv Levin barred Attorney General Gali Baharav Miara. Look at that. I just rolled right off my tongue. Gali Baharav Miara from leading the probe, citing her involvement. She rejected the disqualification, with the High Court likely to decide. She is expected to be questioned under caution this week for alleged obstruction of justice and submitting a false statement to the High Court. And also today, Gadi, Sunday, Israel marked the 30 years on the Jewish calendar since the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin by Yigal Amir on November 4, 1995. There'll be a state memorial on Mount Herzl in Jerusalem. Israelis old enough to remember recall exactly where they were when they heard the news, forever changing the nation. A rally in Tel Aviv's Rabin Square drew large crowds to honor his legacy amid reflections on national unity. And finally, today as well, Gadi, Prime Minister Netanyahu called the Houthis a serious threat, stating that Israel will do whatever is required to remove that threat. The comment hints at a possible significant military operation. The Iran-backed group has faded from the headlines, but it remains active. Over to you.
Yeah, just a small correction. The lying affidavit to the Supreme Court was by the Patzarit, by Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi, not by the Attorney General Gali Baharav Miara.
Yeah. I realized that when I edited it, I made it sound like
just to be clear, although she, according to Justice Minister Yariv Levin, she too is involved. So we'll start with this, and you'll have to. I've been immersed in this ever since it happened, and you'll have to stop me when
it's tailor-made for you. It's like this is it's as if you wrote this scenario because it pulls everything together according to your view of what's been happening.
It does.
I can see you're almost giggling.
It's extremely serious, and I want to start on a grave note, because to give people an idea of what is at stake here in the larger picture. And so just before this happened, since I've been writing about these things, and I've been saying that this advocate general of the IDF, as they call her, Major General Yerushalmi, is tying the hands of the IDF in various ways. So I've been in this polemic for a long time, and I got a message from one of my subscribers to my Hebrew podcast, Gatekeeper, Shomer Saf, which you know, who said, look, I was in a special unit, and I can tell you that what happened in the programming of IDF soldiers is that when I faced mortal danger, my first thought was, what I do now, what I decide to do now, how will I defend it in an air-conditioned court, and will they send me to jail for it? And then I probed him a little, and I got more of the story. So I'm going to relay it to you so you understand what the difference is between, I mean, you understand, but to get the feeling of what the difference is between a dangerous battle situation in a court. He has a very, very specific task. I can't mention what it is. It's a very professional task, and he goes in with the front, with the spearhead forces, and he got stuck in a Palestinian village alone in a jeep, which is where the windows are covered with this metal net, which is very dense and very sturdy. But what they managed to do, the people gathering around the jeep who throw stones at it, they managed to make the window. I didn't understand exactly how this happened, but he couldn't see to the front through the window, or at least not see clearly. And these people are trying to open the door of the jeep to slaughter him. And he's holding the two handles of the two opposite doors, hanging on to his life like this, because they're trying to open it from the outside. And in the end, he said, I just blindsided. I just stepped on the gas, and I didn't know if I was running over people or what. I was certainly running over stones and boulders, I guess is too big, but stones that shook the jeep. And then finally he was out of danger. And he said, this traumatized me for life. I was sitting there for a few minutes holding these doors thinking, when will my hands give, and these people will just tear me apart. And in that situation, I'm thinking, how will I survive a trial if I ever get out of here? And so this is what these people have done to Israeli soldiers. And this is the fight that we are now fighting against, the over judicialization of war in Israel, and I think not only in Israel. So this is just to set you up in what we are talking. So I'll just start with the first stage of the story that brought that ended, or is now, at least I hope this is just an intermediary stage, that led to the resignation with disgrace of the Attorney General of the Army, as they call her, the Advocate General. She's the head of the Army Prosecution. This is what she actually is. So all this began with a situation which is, in a way, similar to what I described to you. The 100 force, they're called Koach Mea, is a special intervention force that is called in case of rioting in the holding facility where they hold the Hamas terrorists since October 7. This is a very, very tense place.
This is Sde Teiman.
Yeah, Sde Teiman. And it's a very, very tense place, as you can understand, in the aftermath of October 7. So these soldiers from Unit 100, they are called in when they have to go into cells in order to quiet down riots. They're in a jail. They're seriously outnumbered. And these people, it was alleged when a Palestinian terrorist was found to be wounded, and apparently in his intestines. I'll say more about this because the details here are important. I'll get back to them later. It was assumed by the Army police and the Army prosecution that he was sexually abused. That is, that he was that they inserted some object.
Raped by instrumentality.
Yeah, I didn't know the term. Thank you. So that was the assumption, that this was what happened. And then in July of 24, I'll stick to the dates here. July 29, the Army police raided the facility to arrest 7 or 8 soldiers from Unit 100, from Force 100, and they did it with ski masks and weapon guns in hand. And that
so
created,
in other words, instead of calling them in for investigation, they treated them like they were terrorists.
Yeah, like they were raiding, a drug cartel in Mexico. And that created a huge backlash, because we are sending these people to be, Mike, what is, you can imagine, the most horrible of jobs. You need to You need to guard this terrible place, and also you need to guard the rights of these prisoners. Now that means you have to fight with yourself not to let go. And we all have the pictures of or the memories of October 7, and you have to guard the rights of these people, the minimal rights that they are acquired. And Israel is very scrupulous about the rights of prisoners. Many think that worrying about their diet and do they get enough fruit should not be our most pressing concern. So what happened next is a riot of Israeli patriots, including right-wing legislators who demonstrate outside the Sde Teiman facility against the army police and the army prosecution. And some of them also break in through the fence. And the chief army prosecutor, the Advocate General, Major General Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi, she has two names as befit a progressive, and she's horrified by this. And the next thing that happens is that Guy Peleg, the law correspondent or an analyst for Channel 12 News, which is the biggest news show in Israel, shows footage from the jail, which is unclear. It's not clear what you see there.
I think a lot of people probably saw the footage. You saw what you saw, as I recall. I haven't reviewed it. Was soldiers taking a Palestinian prisoner behind a partition. You don't see anything other than that, but because the camera doesn't show what goes on behind the partition. But the assumption is that they then rape him behind the partition.
Yeah, that's what the narrator says, although this is not what you see. And this starts a wildfire internationally. It's immediately, the video itself gets 93 million views. And all around the world, people are just assuming that there is proof that the 100 unit, that these IDF soldiers have raped a prisoner. I talked to I'm writing about this for Tablet Now, and I talked to David, the editor, David Samuels, and he said, look, here, if you look at the press here, it is assumed that the fact of rape is established, which, as I will soon say, is very far from the truth, and they're not even indicted for rape with an instrument. How did you call it, Mike?
Rape by instrumentality.
Rape by instrumentality. They're not, when they were indicted, that's not in the indictment. There's no evidence that anything like that happened. And so immediately there's also a huge reaction in Israel. And the first thing, Mike, is if you look at the footage, which
so what are they what are they formally charged with?
They're formally charged with aggravated assault. And if you read the indictment, there are various strange details. He was stabbed in the ass. That is what, probably this is a stab in the ass cheek or something, but I'll say why I'm saying that. But this is sort of a remnant of the thing which makes people, when they read the indictment, say, oh, that's not so far from the original charge. But the original charge was sexual, and there's nothing remained of that for reasons I'll speak about in a minute. So this is broadcast, and the first thing you notice, I bet people don't notice this, but if you go back and look at the film, the actual footage, there are two different timestamps. This has been stitched from two separate videos of two separate days, apparently, or else, as some now claim, one camera was not calibrated and was out of sync with the time. But people noticed immediately that there was something wrong with the dates. On one date, on one timestamp, the date is a date where the detainee was not even there at the Sde Teiman. So people immediately here understood that this may have been fabricated. And now, since only the military police and the office of the Army Attorney General or Advocate General were the only one with access to this footage, it immediately occurred to everybody that is not brainwashed by the legacy media, which didn't comment on this, but everybody else or everybody on the right immediately said, who leaked this thing? The army itself leaked something that is close to a blood libel against our soldiers. This is the worst a case of I don't have any softer word than blood libel, which created a huge anti-Semitic storm around the world, and it came from our army. So a cry comes to investigate where this leak came from. And an organization called We Chose Life of bereaved families appeal to the Supreme Court and say, we want to know where these leaks come from. And then the Attorney General, the Advocate General, declares that they will be investigated by her deputy. And the people appealing to the Supreme Court say,
This
the
is
appeal to the Supreme Court.
Tomer Yerushalmi. Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi says that her deputy will investigate.
Yeah. And so immediately.
But she was the one who leaked it.
It's so, but that we don't know yet. We're just suspecting. Yeah. But we're saying it came from her unit, and she is among the suspects. So how will her deputy be able to investigate her? And then comes in the Gali Barav Miara, your favorite name, the Attorney General of the State of Israel, and says to the Supreme Court, it's outrageous that anyone doubts the integrity of an investigating unit. We are shocked that this even happens. And so what the court does, just to show you how all these pieces of the deep state are all involved in this, the court offers a compromise. And what is the compromise, Mike? Don't worry, there is no conflict of interest, says the court. We have not been convinced that a conflict of interest exists. However, in order to not have the appearance of a conflict of interest, this investigation would be accompanied by someone from Gali Barav Miara's office. Now, she will oversee her.
And remind us who Gali Barav Miara is. She is the
Attorney General and also the legal counsel to the executive. And she's very, very hostile to the right-wing government, who is trying desperately to fire her, but are unable to because the court now has stopped the proceeding of firing her, and it's now debated in the court. Let me add one interesting nugget to this. Gali Barav Miara's son is an officer in the IDF, and he was caught on security cameras stealing a Kevlar vest from another soldier. And this time the footage was very convincing. You can see him taking it and walking away. And since he admitted doing this. However, Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi, who is the head of army prosecution, is not prosecuting Gali Barav Miara's son. So when Gali Barav Miara is now in charge of making sure that Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi's investigation of herself by her deputy is and does not suffer from problems of integrity, you understand that there may be a conflict of interest here. And now the one major piece, which is not just an anecdote. Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi submits an affidavit to the court in which she lies and says that they cannot find, that they haven't found.
They looked really hard and couldn't find anything.
Yeah, and so she.
Do you realize that if Barav Miara's son marries Tomer Yerushalmi's daughter, there'll be Barav Miara Tomer Yerushalmi?
Yeah, absolutely. What happens if Elton John marries John Lennon?
What?
They'll have a son called John. That's an old joke from Israel. Anyway, and I don't think it was John Lennon. I just couldn't think of the woman singer that was called John. Anyway, so now Tomer Yerushalmi is lying to the court, but we don't know that. And they're conducting a sham investigation, which ends up with Gali Barav Miara informing the court that no other possible investigative measures can be taken. Everything, they tried everything. They didn't find anything because too many people had access to this footage, and there's no technological way to follow the actual leak. All this, Mike, when we now know that Tomer Yerushalmi and her deputies had a WhatsApp group to coordinate the leak and the lying about it. So they are so cocky and they feel so secure because they are protected by the state prosecution. Gali Barav Miara heads it, and the press, the left-wing press, is on their side. They feel so cocky that they lie to the court and they hold a WhatsApp group in order to coordinate their lies.
Can I stop and ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
What was the original motive? Why was it? Why did Tomer Yerushalmi think it was in her interest or to leak this footage? Why create this storm over this particular issue?
Aha. You are asking the $1,000,000 questions, which I also asked when this began, and we have it in her letter of resignation. According to her, after the Force 100 soldiers were arrested, a campaign of delegitimation against her staff began. And so, in order to justify their own actions and to stop this campaign, she leaked the footage.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Now it makes more sense. So this is really the politics of the legal reform, basically, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got it.
Infecting the whole.
And if you take a step back and ask, why did they arrest them with ski masks and guns? Well, because leading to that event, the army was repeatedly accused of war crimes, often unjustly. And just a day before the leak, the sequence here is, I'm distorting the sequence, but it gives you an idea. B'Tselem, the human rights organization, called out Tomer Yerushalmi as complicit by whitewashing the army's war crimes. And so this happens.
She's trying to kill two birds with one stone. She's trying to get the right. Let me just discredit the right wing and defend herself against the left wing.
Exactly. So just to make sure that you're not confused about the times, the B'Tselem report comes in the middle. But before the arrest with the ski masks, there has been international calls or international criticism, not just of the Israeli army, but also of the Israeli judicial system, which allegedly is helping launder the crimes of the IDF. And so what if, and this is, for me, this is hair-raising. So she, and in her letter, she says this. She says that her,
I can go ahead and finish your sentence, but I'll say something. Go ahead.
What she actually does, and this is, the letter is no less shameful than everything else she did. What she's basically saying is, we threw the IDF soldiers to the dogs with an allegation of rape that has not yet been proved and is unprovable because it didn't happen, as we later learned. But we threw them to the dogs in order to justify ourselves. Of course, she doesn't say it in these words. But the motivation is to clear her own unit. And in order to clear our own unit, she's hanging those soldiers in public. That is a disgrace that that is beyond words.
But I'll tell you what, I think I know the mentality that produced this. I mean, aside from the shamelessness and the dishonesty and all that, right? But why she can go to bed at night and tell herself a story about herself that makes her feel like she's doing God's work. And I'm telling you this not to inform you, but this is in the form of a question. But here's how I imagine it. You remember when they sent no Mashmo, the former the guy, the architect,
Aaron Barak.
Yeah, when they sent him to
Hague, the Hague
to the Hague. When they sent him to the Hague, There, I had some conversations with people on the left, and there's a strong feeling, not just from within the legal community, but on the left, that this judicial structure, which you see as fundamentally authoritarian and non-democratic, they see as the thing that is really the first line of defense for the state of Israel against international delegitimation. So both of the threats that the legal establishment senses to its vision of the properly run state, which is a state in which they dominate. They see there are two threats. One is the right wing, Smotrich, Ben Gvir, and their great enabler Benjamin Netanyahu, who are delegitimating their system. And then the other threat is the delegitimation internationally. And as they see the world, the Smotrich and Ben Gvir are giving material to people in Europe and elsewhere to delegitimate Israel. And so they have to fight both simultaneously. And
Exactly.
this is what she
Exactly.
thinks she's doing by creating this whole fiction, but in order to purify the legal system and say because we are the we are the really we are the greatest warriors for Israel against all of its enemies.
Exactly. But you see how this incident makes the argument much less convincing. You're throwing these
They-
soldiers to the
they-
dogs in order to protect them, in order to
right,
protect the IDF.
but
And not just this, Mike. People are talking about a leak. It's not a leak. The problem is not a leak. They
it's a manufacturing of a whole.
allegedly fabricated evidence in order to smear IDF soldiers in order to allegedly protect
Not,
her own unit.
they did more. This reminds me of Russiagate in so many ways because they did more than just fabricate evidence. They also created events like the raid with the ski masks and so on, which gives the average viewer who's not paying a lot of attention and who's not following every detail and sees the image of the guys going in with the ski masks. It just says, "Oh wow, this is really serious." There must be. They wouldn't behave like that unless this was a really an incredibly serious breach. So it creates a whole atmosphere. Look, there's another
But
element
I
here.
want to say something, Mike, about the way I think you're right in the way that she justifies it for itself herself, but I don't think it's the actual motivation. I think it's simpler and more personal and egotistic. These people go to conferences of other prosecutors and legal scholars around the world, and they want to be on the side that blames rather than the side that is blamed. And Israelis suffer from claustrophobia. Since for many years we've been living inside the borders of this country in a completely hostile region, and going abroad is like a spiritual thing. And to be again in a position where abroad people will point and say, Israeli, you are disgusting. It's it's
They can't
haunting
take it.
them.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I have a background in American academia, and I can tell you that some of the worst woke people are the Israeli graduate students. They're totally insufferable, precisely because they're working so hard to be the good Jew, the good Israeli in the eyes of the woke critics.
That's true
So it's
of
just an
American Jews too.
extension of it's extension of the academic environment.
There-
Um,
There's a there, there's also among American Jews the same thing when you go to J Street and other places. But Mike, we're missing an important part of the story. Why did
wait. I'm
all
going to tell you what it is.
Yeah?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead. But
Why, if this
I
is
was
so
going to take us to the next element.
okay, if so, maybe we're aiming at the same thing. If this is such an airtight cover that they're all covering for each other, how come it all came out now? If the court is protecting it, the state prosecution is protecting it, the attorney general, the press is covering up for them. How come this thing ended up bursting out into the open? And the short answer is David Zini. We have a new
Ah,
head of the Shin Bet. and we are in a completely different ball game. So how did this come out? This
Ah,
this is
ah,
built like a Hollywood movie, right?
this is
It's
great.
beautiful. It's
This
just
is
beautiful.
great.
You
This is
just have to
great.
start. The first scene has to be
This was
Gali
not, by the
Barav
way,
Miara.
this is not where I wanted to take the discussion, but you may get there yet. Let's see. Go.
So you only have to start the film with, also true, Gali Barav Miara fighting against the appointment of Zini, which she did,
Oh,
tooth and
right.
nail. She was
Oh,
fighting
right.
against
Right.
this.
Yes, that was the whole.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
that was the
I
story.
forgot this element. Oh, this is too good.
So what happened? And
There,
also,
because there was
and
all this
also, if
claim. There
Tomer,
was all this claim that that Zini didn't have a background for it. It wasn't acceptable.
yeah,
And of course, Mashmo, the former Shin Bet guy,
Ronen Bar,
Ronin Bar. I forgot about all that already. We had
yeah.
all of
So here's
last spring and summer. We had the whole thing about Ken Netanyahu actually replaced him and so on. It was a big,
exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and it's also like in a tragic drama. If Tomer Yerushalmi brings her own downfall because she does a small thing. She wants to promote her PR person, who is also privy to the uh,
Privy.
privy to the WhatsApp group.
I am as Lord Privy
Back to the
Seal.
Privy Seal. Yeah, you warned me about it. To the WhatsApp group where they coordinate the lies and the leaking of the tape. So she wants to promote her, and when you are promoted, I think she wanted to promote her to an army judge, and when you do that, they have to take a polygraph test. And who administers a polygraph test in Israel?
Shin Bet.
Shin Bet. So she went to a polygraph test and they asked her, "Did you ever leak documents?" And she said, "No, I didn't." Boom! The machine erupts and said, "No, you're lying." And then she spills the beans and she says everything. Now, if Ronen
This
Bar,
is a movie. This is a movie,
it
man.
is a
You should write
movie.
the screenplay. It's good.
And then if it was Ronen Bar, it would have reached his desk. And I'm guessing, this is all a guess. And he's one of the cliques, so he protects Gali Barav Miara like she protected him. And if it reaches his desk, he would just pass along, he can, or at least a curt message saying, "This woman failed the test, do not promote her." And that's it. Nobody would know. But it's not Ronen Bar, it's David Zini. And so this arrives on his desk on his third day as new director of the Shin Bet. And he passes this along to the IDF. And the IDF sees this is, and everybody knows, it's David Zini. The IDF, I don't know if Eyal Zamir would have protected his major general or not. I hope not, but it came from David Zini. If he doesn't do anything with it, it will not stop there. So the army gives all this story on background to reporters in Israel. And this is how we all learn about it from Ayala Hasson's Facebook, from, I have my own contacts. So everybody, it's a small country. Everybody makes calls. Everybody knows someone who knows. It's out there in the open very, very quickly. And on Friday afternoon, and Friday morning, we learned that Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi has gone on vacation to distance herself. By 1 in the afternoon, she has resigned. And now,
Oh,
last sentence about all this, because I'm going on too long, is that now this
no,
establishment of the deep
this
state.
is fascinating, and I didn't I wouldn't say I was following it that closely, but I was following, and I didn't know all these details. So this is great.
So now the last thing is all these players who've been protecting each other, they know she's gone. And now what they're trying to do is put everything on her so that this doesn't roll upwards.
Oh, so she's going to be the scapegoat. So
And
okay,
this is
now
why, Gali Barav Miara is fighting to stay in charge of the investigation. And this is why Yariv Levin is fighting her, because Gali Barav Miara, in charge of the investigation, is able to stop this ball from rolling to her and to the Supreme Court. And she is probably going to win this because unless Yariv Levin insists on a special prosecutor, an institution we don't have in Israel. We're imitating you, the Americans. We saw Robert Mueller. We want one too, or a better one than Robert Mueller. And now If that is not done, there is nobody to investigate these people. Who can investigate Gali Barav Miara? She's the head.
Who will guard the guardians? The
Exactly.
the so we have there's one more element to this, which is where I thought you were gonna get in the end, because when I read this about this, I thought, wow, this is tailor-made for Gandhi, because there's an additional element here, which is that leaks or mishandling of classified information is what they have been using to attack Netanyahu. And they've had this incredible investigation, which we've talked about in great detail here, of Netanyahu's office, where they have, they put a guy in solitary confinement for weeks, and cut him off from everything, in order to press him to explain exactly what he did with classified information when he was basically keeping it within the system, not leaking it out. And that's how they treated Netanyahu's staff. But in this case, when they were leaking information, they just said, "Well, we
There's no
tried, we
technological way. They
there's
could have taken
no way
they
to
could
do
have
this,
taken the phones.
no way to know, no way to know." So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, you're right.
just the it goes all the way. I mean, this the modus operandi of these people, which has been revealed. It goes all the way to the Netanyahu trial, really. No,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
you have nothing to say about that? I thought
And,
this was I thought this was
I
going to go on
feel
and on.
I feel out of breath, and like I said it all, and certainly everybody, when they said they can investigate it, anyone who is not completely brainwashed by the legacy media understand that this is a risible lie born out of their audacity in knowing that they are invincible. Because, as you say, they take a reservist like Ari Rosenfeld, who leaked a document to the prime minister's office, not to some unauthorized.
It's not a
Uh,
leak. It's not a
it's
leak.
not a leak. It's not a leak. He just bypassed his commanders, and they put him in solitary confinement in order to break him. And now they say, "Oh, we can't. We don't know how to. We don't know." She said, "Every investigative action has been taken and has yielded nothing." They did. They don't even. They can take Guy Peleg. He's a journalist. The journalist who broke this. They can take his call log. They don't even have to confiscate his phone. And you say, well, he's a journalist. They're careful with journalists. Well, when it was in their interest, they confiscated the phone of the editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post, Zvika Klein, and he still didn't get his phone back last time I checked, which is 2 weeks ago, or something on that order. So when they want to, they know how to get information, and they trample over civil rights here like in a banana republic in South America. You can't believe how blasé they are with our civil rights when they want to. But Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi is at home now. She's not under arrest, and nobody took her phone. So
But
if
I'll tell you what, she's very
yeah,
unhappy.
she
She's
is very
very
unhappy.
unhappy. This is not, she won't look back on these days as one of the more pleasant of her life.
Absolutely. You want?
Uh,
Yeah. Let's move on.
okay, this is great. This is great. This is great. Absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. What are we going to do now? We're going to do
I think we have anti-Semitism in America, and we have Gaza. So choose a card, Mike.
so we'll go with anti-Semitism in America. Should we do that, or should we do Gaza?
Let's
It's
do
up to
that
you. It's
because,
up to you. You're the leader here. Go ahead.
no,
What do
I'm
you?
not. I'm just the front man.
Anyway, I'm not Mike.
It's
I'm Big Dog.
it's it's you who decide. For me, you're a big cat. I'm a cat fan.
Okay,
Um,
Big Dog wants to talk about the anti-Semitism in America.
oh, okay, please, because we had things are whenever you think they've reached the peak, something worse come with Tucker Carlson. So
Yeah,
now Nick Fuentes,
so
right pronouncing?
Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on his show and embraced him. And Nick Fuentes, Gotti is as disgusting in political terms as a person can be. I mean, he's he's racist, he's sexist, he's avowedly racist. avowedly sexist, and avowedly anti-Semitic. And anyone who hasn't followed him, you can go look and
And also anti-gays, right? He said, what did he keep saying? I
yeah,
thought I saw something where he
probably.
said that they keep appointing gays to the army or something like that. That it's,
Yeah,
but I don't
probably.
remember.
I don't know. I have to tell
I'll
you,
be surprised if he's
I,
pro-gay. I'll say that.
yeah, I'll be surprised. But the truth be told, I haven't spent a lot of time listening to Nick Fuentes. But I mean, he's just like the bottom of the barrel, absolutely the bottom of the barrel. And there's there's clip circulating where he basically calls for killing Jews. He it's a little more subtle than that. He said, we have to realize that there's a lot of demon worshippers who are having undue influence over the country, and a lot of Jews among them, and that when we take power, we're going to have to kill them. Okay, so that's pretty much a direct quote. So
Wow.
so he has Tucker Carlson has Nick Fuentes on, and then Kevin Roberts, who is the CEO of the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank, very respected conservative think tank here in Washington, came out and defended Tucker Carlson. And now the Heritage has a long-standing, under Kevin Roberts, has a long-standing relationship with Tucker Carlson. So people were calling for Tucker Carlson to be ostracized for platforming Nick Fuentes. Of course, we know here Tucker Carlson has been platforming grotesque anti-Semites for months and months now. So and advancing notions like the Israelis were behind 9/11 and so on his show. So Roberts came out on Thursday with this very disingenuous statement in which he talked about the venomous coalition that is trying to demonize patriot Tucker Carlson, and makes it very clear, Kevin Roberts, that without saying exactly the words, but that the venomous coalition is being manipulated by Israel, or its strings are being pulled by Israel. So there's an immediate backlash against Kevin Roberts, and then he starts backtracking a little bit. And on Friday, it's announced quietly within Heritage, but it leaks out to the press that he has moved his chief of staff out of his position as chief of staff into another job unrelated to that, unrelated to the office of the CEO, and put somebody else in charge. So a tacit recognition that he made a mistake. And then he did a couple of long interviews where he said, look, what we're trying to do, we don't want to engage in cancel culture like the left. What we're trying to do is we're trying to reach the audience of people like Nick Fuentes, because there's lots of disaffected young men out there who are influenced by this, and we think if we just ostracize them, then these malicious actors, then that will we won't be able to influence those young men, and so on and so forth.
You
Uh,
tweeted a long tweet in which you said his original defense of Tucker Carlson was both dishonest and stupid.
Yeah, dishonest. It was dishonest because he changed the subject to Israel, right? So it was the issue is blatant anti-Semitism and racism, and
Yeah, he hid behind, oh, you must be able to, it must be legitimate to
yeah,
criticize
well, yeah,
Israel.
yeah. He immediately defined the issue as is it legitimate to criticize Israel or not? It's got nothing to do with it. Then say I said three things about the what he said. I said, first of all, it was dishonest because he changed the subject to Israel. Secondly, it was anti-Semitic because he said that this venomous coalition against Tucker is serving the agendas of foreign powers or something like that. I can't remember if he said foreign powers, but serving agendas of other people. So he evoked the Jewish cabal, and then I said it was stupid because Tucker Carlson also has come out very openly, explicitly, avowedly against evangelical Christians, putting them in the category of they're Israel first, not America first.
Yeah.
So in addition to in addition to alienating Jews, they're also alienating evangelical Christians, and this is a fundamental element of the MAGA coalition. So this is uh, incredibly stupid to foment this kind of discord among in the MAGA coalition. And one of the reasons, one of the justifications that Kevin Roberts made for not criticizing Tucker Carlson was that by criticizing Tucker Carlson, we are sowing division. But why? How come Tucker Carlson is not guilty of sowing division when he platforms somebody who's anti-Semitic and says that he hates Mike Huckabee and evangelical Christians? Isn't that sowing division?
I have a ready encapsulated formula because I'm constantly accused of sowing division by criticizing the incitement of the left. And my image for that is that you cannot blame the antibiotics for attacking the streptococcus. How do you say streptococcus? Streps. It is not the same. It's Tucker Carlson is a disease.
I guess you'd say the bacteria, I guess, or
yeah, but Tucker Carlson is a disease, and attacking the disease is not sowing division. It is helping unity. Yes.
But look, you know what happened here? The mediocre minds that wrote this statement for Kevin Roberts. What happened is that there is this thing which we started calling cancel culture, where in academia, in the media, and elsewhere, the left would cancel anyone who disagreed with them and depict them as racist and misogynistic. So over time, those claims that you're a racist, you're a misogynist, and so on, they lost their bite on conservatives because it was obviously a tool being used to deplatform them. So from here, this idea took root that we're against deplatforming. And so then when you come and say, actually, Tucker Carlson should be deplatformed because he's a racist and anti-Semite and so on and so forth, the people say, oh, no, that's cancel culture. That's cancel culture.
Yeah.
But I mean, the simple question is, do we have values? Do we have a vision of what we want America to be? Do we have a multi-ethnic, multi-religious society or not? You know, are we going to be these hyper-sectarian people? And so you have to police these boundaries. There's no other way around it. Anybody who thinks about it for 5 minutes realizes that a political movement has to police boundaries. It just has to. So Kevin Roberts is in trouble. It'll be interesting to see how long he lasts. If I have to bet, if we were to bet on over under, I bet he makes it through the weekend. I bet he makes it into next week. It's very hard for an institution like this that has, where the board has chosen this guy to turn around and say, well, we made a big mistake. So I suspect that that he will probably weather this. He'll promise the board to make a bunch of changes. They'll come out with a statement. They've been saying we're not anti-Semitic, we're not anti-Semitic. In fact, they have a really good program at Heritage of countering anti-Semitism with really good people in it.
How about the donors, Mike? Have some of the donors withdrew their support?
Well, a couple of board members issued statements that were clearly, they were indirect attacks on Roberts, but very indirect. They didn't mention it by name. They just said that we believe in the following principles, and these are sacrosanct, and anyone who doesn't believe in them doesn't have any place in our movement, right? But they didn't mention Roberts, they didn't mention Heritage, they didn't mention Tucker, and so on. So I can only imagine that behind the scenes there's an enormous amount of churn going on, and how the churn will come out exactly, I don't know. But my guess is that Roberts will resign round about January. He'll discover that he wants to spend more time with his family. But it will. That's what I suspect. But it could be that he'll be gone next week. Now it could also be that he'll stay on. Those are the three scenarios: stays on, is ousted next week, makes it to January, and then there's a kind of orderly transition when he decides that he needs to spend more time with his family.
Is there an English parallel to the Hebrew saying "Lo העיפרון הכי חד בקלמר"?
Yeah, you'd say yeah, he's not the sharpest pen. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's not the sharpest pencil in the.
Uh,
You
Well,
know,
and I'd say, I mean, I don't want to give advice to anti-Semites, not Kevin Robertson, not Tucker Carlson, but if you want to make anti-Semitism mainstream, maybe Fuentes is not your first choice. That's not very smart. Because
no,
I saw a
one of,
clip of him
one of, yeah,
explaining with like giggling and explaining that women actually do want to get raped and beaten
yeah,
once in
yeah,
a
yeah,
while.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. One of the things. I mean, I can't help but laugh, but it's very serious. I mean, this is all very serious. You'll don't let my the lack of a grave demeanor suggest that I don't think it's serious.
you've just
One of the
defined
things,
our program, Mike. You've just
yeah,
defined our
one
podcast.
of
Yeah.
one of the things that boggles my mind. I can't believe it is how crude all of these guys are. And that we're even debating it. Like you know how you've been in that situation many times, I'm sure, where something totally outrageous happens, and you just expect that everyone is going to look at that and say that is outrageous, and they'll react in a certain way, and then they don't, and they start making justifications, and you can't even find the arguments
Yeah.
to push back because you think do we even have to talk about this? Like, is it a guy who openly says, Nick Fuentes, that women want to be raped, right? Do we have to discuss whether this guy should have a serious be taken seriously in our political life? This is it's
Yeah.
it's amazing, but this is where we're at right now. Now, sorry, Gotti, one more thing about this.
Yeah.
This is a big deal because it's a really, really big deal because Kevin Roberts is in Washington, and he's in a Washington establishment institution. There's been this radical transformation over the media landscape because of the decline of all of the mainstream media and the rise of social media and this incredible free for all. And as somebody like yourself knows, who runs his own YouTube channel, now a guy like Nick Fuentes can develop a big following and make a lot of money because he appeals to a certain sliver of the audience. And there's no way to deplatform that. He's going to get people. This is the way the world works now. He's got his followers. They're going to pay him subscription money, and he's got a career pushing these incredibly heinous ideas. But are we going to accept them in mainstream institutions? Is that where that's what's being fought out here. And the lines are drawn very clearly now. Is Tucker legitimate or is he not legitimate in mainstream institutions? I've been saying this for months now on our podcast. The guy, the guy the guy is a filthy animal, and he needs to be ostracized from the mainstream. And so that's where the fight is. And in that sense, I'm kind of upbeat about it because I'm looking. It's clear now. Tucker has been so crude. Uh, uh, he's not just going after the Jews. He's going after the evangelicals. He's going after Mike Huckabee. He's undoing the Trump coalition. So I think a lot of people are going to look at this. I'm sorry to say that it took more than just going after the Jews for this to happen, but I think people are going to start waking up now and see, no, 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 this is not the direction we want to go.
Where is Trump on all this?
Good question.
And then there's Vance. JD Vance spoke to a gathering of Turning Point USA and said
And JD
something to
Vance,
the
JD
effect.
Vance, JD Vance interviewed Tucker Carlson on the Charlie Kirk show after the murder of Charlie Kirk. He
Yeah.
was sort of the guest host, and he had Tucker Carlson. So, and Tucker Carlson's son works in JD Vance's office. So there's
And
a
then he,
question there for JD Vance.
yeah, absolutely. I think we should watch this because JD Vance may be a president one day.
Well,
And
this
this
is
is,
one of the things that this is one of the things that's so exciting to Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and so on, is that they think that they represent the future of MAGA. So in a sense, Donald Trump is lame duck on this question. He's not. If he decides not to be and starts to I suspect I'm looking forward to what's going to happen this coming week. I expect to hear something from Trump, or at least a clear signal. He already came out with Cookie Tucker Carlson over Iran.
Over Iran, yeah.
But what's being fought over is the future, and Tucker Carlson clearly thinks he's bigger than Donald Trump, or at least he can take this thing, this MAGA machine, this MAGA movement. He can influence it in a certain direction. I think he's going to fail. I have a different vision of the country than he does. I think I understand the country better than he does. And we're going to find out if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
Well, your instincts about the elections were very impressive, Mike. I have to tell you. You just ignored all the polls and said this is not going to be. I remember it.
The one thing I don't have anymore, when I used to teach at the university, I had a great understanding of what was in the minds of, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds. I know now, talking to my children and following what's going on, that somebody who's 22 years old, 23 years old, they grew up in a very different America than I did, and they have all kinds of attitudes about men and women and about politics and so on that are totally unfamiliar to me. And that's the question. There are a lot of avowedly misogynistic and racist people out there now, partially as a response to the racism of wokeness. I mean, wokeness is race-based, and it's racist. It categorizes
Yeah,
us.
it re-legitimizes racial categories as decisive. Although it
So
says
we
they're socially constructed and not biological, this is what it does in actuality.
So we have
I,
to undo all that. It's a massive undertaking, and we have enormous work cut out for us. And so I could be wrong, but I still have a vision of the country.
I don't think
That
academia can be reformed. I think the structure it's just a sinking ship. We have to find alternatives. We're in the same situation that the beginning of the Enlightenment was, where universities were basically seminars for the clergy, and an actual free thought happened in independent societies and journals. I think,
Yeah, it
I
has to.
think
That's what it has to be done.
yeah, because these systems are all the peer review system and the way that the promotion system works. It's you're only promoted for your conformism, and now this has been wholly overtaken by one side. There are, I don't know, 2% conservatives or something in prestigious academic institutions, and so
And even that
they're
doesn't,
gone.
even that I know it so well. The conservatives that you have on campuses are a pale shadow of actual conservatism. You don't there are almost no real conservatives on U.S. campuses.
How about me, Mike, in Hebrew University?
You're
Let's
you're
not talk about my institution. I don't discuss this. But I'll say this: I have not been censured. Censured? Is that how you
censored
pronounce it? Censored?
censored.
I don't do politics in class, except my classes about politics, which are Israeli culture and history, and then I put my views on the table, and I'm and I my view of academia is that you protect students' opinions within the boundaries of the law. So anyone who's not inciting to violence have their own right to their opinion. You can argue with them, but I don't censure my students myself. Okay, Mike, we're running out of time, and we still have. Oh no, not Gaza again.
Oh, we'll talk about Gaza next week. We'll talk about Gaza. Gaza's
I
not going away. I guarantee all the major things about Gaza, they're not going. We'll talk about it next week. But
I just did an imitation of Ricky Gervais. Oh no, not Gaza again. He's every time he hosts the Golden Globes, he's like, oh no, not this again. Um, um, he
should we
didn't
do
make
it? Should we do a dumb mistake and readers' comments?
Yeah, let's
Readers'
do that.
comments?
So let's go to your dumb mistake because it's really funny.
My dumb mistake is Steve Bannon. I keep going
Once
back to
again,
him. Yeah, but Steve Bannon, when after the Sharm el Sheikh summit, where where Trump, at least rhetorically, possibly more than that, moved toward the Arab and Muslim allies of the United States and away from Netanyahu, seemed to. And then Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff went on 60 Minutes, and they said Trump was very angry with Donald Trump.
Wait.
I'm sorry,
Trump was very
Donald
angry
Trump,
with
sorry,
who?
with Bibi Netanyahu, and
Yeah.
that over the attack, the attack in Qatar, and that and Witkoff was surprised by what the Israelis did, and the Israelis have gone too far, and we have to rein them in, et cetera, et cetera. So Steve Bannon, this was his wet dream that there would be open friction between the Trump administration and Netanyahu. So he did a big sloppy Steve did a big victory lap and said, I told you, this is the end of the greater Israel program of Netanyahu. Netanyahu's run into the brick wall of Donald Trump and so on. And then Bannon said he advocated a three-state solution. So we're going to have a Palestinian state, and Donald Trump is apparently in favor of this Palestinian state. We're going to have Israel, next to it, a Palestinian state, and then we're going to have a Christian state of Jerusalem. And this is so incredibly incoherent because remember the whole theoretically, I mean, what's coming out with Bannon, I think, is just some anti-Semitism. I don't know how else to interpret it because the glee with which with which he attacks Israel, the glee with which he says, "Aha, you see, I got it right all along," suggests to me that it's just that the beast within is being unleashed, and this. So he was also excited by Trump's work. I missed an element here, which makes his position so incoherent. That he was thrilled at the fact that at Sharm el-Sheikh, Trump was sitting next to Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And so basically he's saying, ha ha, Israel, Donald Trump is gonna club you with the club of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and you deserve it because you've gone too far. And then he says we're gonna have a Christian state in Jerusalem. This is totally incoherent because one, originally his argument against close association with Israel was that Israel was bringing us into imperial projects in the Middle East when we had to pull back and focus on the United States. So now all of a sudden he did this two-step, and we have a new imperial project creating the Christian state of Jerusalem. And he doesn't realize that the Christian state of Jerusalem puts us directly at odds with the Palestinian claims to Jerusalem.
And with Turkey.
And with Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Does he think Recep Tayyip Erdogan wants a Christian state in Jerusalem?
Can you imagine Bannon leading a new crusade to Israel under a Christian flag on a horse?
This is what these guys. This is their sectarianism coming out. That Tucker Carlson as well is making his arguments, and Kevin Roberts said when he said, it's okay to criticize Israel. He said Christians can criticize Israel when it does things that are not in their interests. So there's an increasing. I never heard Tucker Carlson before this year. Not that I'm a great aficionado of everything Tucker Carlson has ever said, but before this year, I never heard him really refer to himself as a Christian. And this is really he hates Mike Huckabee because Mike Huckabee's support for the state of Israel is a Christian heresy. Well, it's a heresy. Why is it a heresy? Anyway, as Steve Bannon is coming more from a Catholic point of view, but the Vatican has long wanted an internationalized Jerusalem, but it hasn't called for a Christian Jerusalem. He's taken it a step further here. Anyway, it doesn't make any sense, any of it. It's not going to happen. It's a new imperial project. Who is going to who's going to lead this Christian state? What are we going to do with the Muslims in it? What
Steve
and
Bannon is going to
yeah,
lead that state.
and
Yeah. So my dumb mistake is from a guy called Rani Rahav, who is a very vulgar PR person. And it usually takes the positions of the elite that he doesn't understand and not
sorry,
really belongs
what's his
to.
last name? What's his last name?
Rahav.
Rahav.
Rahav. How do
Ron
you
Rahav.
translate that? Rani Rahav. Yeah.
Ronnie Rahav.
So after a Attorney General of the Army or Advocate General of the Army, Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi, resigned, he tweeted this: "Kudos to Major General Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi, the Attorney General of the Army, for taking responsibility for her actions and resigning from the IDF." So she deserves applause, apparently,
A
for
medal.
throwing her soldiers to the dogs, inventing evidence, lying to the Supreme Court, and then resigning only when she knew she is facing an indictment. She did not resign to take responsibility. She was ousted in disgrace. But when you look at Rani Rav, you'll understand how the Ben Caspits of the world, I don't know if Ben Caspit himself, are going to spin it. Not him. He's moved on from that, but you'll see it.
Unlike Bibi Netanyahu, she took
Exactly.
responsibility. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. This was the line. Bibi Netanyahu should take an example for it. And I could have taken something more ridiculous from Yael Friedson, who is the law correspondent. Do you say law correspondent? The guy, the person
I
who
think
is
you say
the
legal correspondent, maybe?
legal correspondent for Haaretz, who said a bunch of right-wing men are attacking Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi, who is a woman. that was that was her take. That was her take on it. So
It's
so
sexism.
sexism. It's all sexism.
Yeah.
Um, and that's that's all, folks, from
No,
us
we
for
have
today.
readers. We have readers' comments.
Ah, we have readers' comments, right? Sorry,
Yeah,
I never ever managed to.
I came in for a lot of criticism in after our last episode.
Oh, right, for Tommy Robinson. I had
Yeah,
criticism of you too.
people were very unhappy with my views on Tommy Robinson. And so here's one typical.
How
Actually,
did our video do? In the beginning, it didn't do so well. Let me check while we're speaking. About like how many views it got.
which one? Your Tommy Robinson interview?
Yeah, because it's not exactly fair because I stole some of our views because I published this first on my Hebrew speaking channel. And so since Tommy Robinson speaks English and it only had Hebrew subtitles, many watched it on my Hebrew channel. It made 60,000 views, over 60,000. On our channel, it
So
made
you,
11,000. Not bad, but
so
not
you,
good.
so you stole views from us.
Yeah, I do.
Which is
I
this
do
is a
it
good moment.
regularly.
This is a good moment to remind everybody to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and what else? What else, Gotti?
Uh, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and follow.
And
And
call me
follow
Big
us.
Dog. And call and call me Big Dog.
Yeah, and
Okay.
call you Big Dog. Big
Yeah.
cat for me.
All
Okay,
right.
so what have
Allison
people been
Tucker,
saying?
Allison Tucker, TLY, Tuckertley, says, I was one of the people who went to the Tommy Robinson rally. This is in London, leaving my pitchfork and broom at home. That was because I made some comment at one point about peasants with pitchforks. There was no one that I saw with a pitchfork there, and it infuriates me that Mike is presenting it as such. It was
Exactly,
a,
Mike.
it was a,
Let me stop
wait,
you.
wait. Let
Okay,
me
no, I
read
can't
more
stop you.
here.
I know.
Okay.
So
It
what I
was a
wanted to say.
fantastic, friendly, good-natured event. No far-right thuggery, much as the lefty liberal woke MSM press wants to push that narrative. It was full of proud Brits waving flags, and it was a great thing to see. It was really uplifting to see people unite under the flags of England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, flags that the government and the lefty lunatics are telling us we have no right to wave, lest non-Anglo-Saxon residents, many illegal, get offended by the slightest show of patriotism. It was truly wunderbar. I think Mike is letting the narrative around Tommy and his past as a football loon color his views with help from the decades-long narrative propounded by the mainstream media. Okay, and she goes on to say more things about this, but that's the general tone of the criticisms of my view of Tommy Robinson.
I second her view because I berated myself after the show. And why did I not comment on your peasants with pitchfork comment? Because I thought that's are you pulling a Bruce Springsteen on us? This is exactly this is exactly what the left in America says
Yeah,
about patriots, that they are deplorables. And these
right.
and what happens when you do that is you leave no room of legitimacy for, law-abiding working class and middle class people who want to protect their national identity, and that is being delegitimized by Western elites the world over. And these people are not, they're not peasants with pitchfork that are being steered to violence against foreigners. They have a legitimate argument against uh, uh, cultural disillusion of the nation. So I confess that I was not alert enough to reprimand you in real time. So I am
Uh-huh.
now.
Yeah, well, okay. So consider me duly reprimanded, and I still have not changed my view. Because my view is a little more nuanced than that.
No, that's
Uh,
not nuanced. That's a trick. No,
huh?
my view
No,
is
no.
nuanced.
Well,
It's
you haven't heard my view yet. You haven't heard my
Oh, I
defense of
heard it
my.
a few times. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, look, the guy clearly comes out. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. The Tommy Robinson that I see today, the Tommy Robinson that you interviewed, the Tommy Robinson that led the recent rally, the Tommy Robinson the last couple of years, I like. I like that guy. But I wonder how long am I going to see that guy? I don't. Is that guy, he has a story he's telling. Yes, I flirted a little bit with National Front politics when I was young. I got a little bit deceived. Didn't last very long at all. I was never really a complete member. And I have moved away from that. And I'm now just representing, as Allison Tucker said, I'm representing, patriotism. I was exposing these rape gangs, the grooming gangs, when the corrupt establishment was protecting itself. Much of the way the establishment you're talking about in Israel protected itself as well, Gadi. And that is it's a pretty good story he has to tell. And if he continues along this line for the next 10 years, then that's great. But I have seen things with my own eyes in the recent past with Tommy Robinson that put big question marks in my mind. And just because he's on a good tack right now doesn't mean the question mark doesn't remain. For example, a couple of years ago, Tommy Robinson organized a rally outside of the Azerbaijani embassy in London. Yeah, here we go. You can see you're starting to smile.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now I
yeah,
got it.
yeah, yeah,
Did,
yeah,
did he
yeah.
criticize Erdogan?
No, no, he criticized the Azerbaijanis, depict and supported the Armenians, right? So and depicted the Azerbaijanis as conducting ethnic cleansing of Armenia and tried to have a mass rally. Now, how many Armenians are there in Britain, Gadi?
I don't know. I don't know.
There's about three. There may be seven, depending upon which day. There's a handful. There's a few thousand. So what he was saying was Muslim Azerbaijan is murdering Christians in Armenia. First of all, it's a lie. That did not happen. We don't need to go into all the details now, but it's a complete lie. It is Russian and Iranian and Armenian propaganda, number
Yeah,
one.
so he may have bought
Number
into
what?
it. Mike, I think
Number
I
wait, yeah.
yeah.
So there's only two ways to interpret that behavior. One is one is he's totally ideological on a sectarian way, and a kind of sectarianism that I don't accept, where we say that the issue is Muslims versus Christians, no matter what. A or B, and I think this is the more likely scenario, he was paid. And he paid, and he said, okay, I'll do a Rent a Thug rally for you because I got paid. Right? And
I
that
doubt that.
now,
But
what?
I don't want this is
Those are the only two possibilities, either very bad judgment or gun for hire. Okay?
no,
Those are
no,
the
it's not.
only two possibilities.
But
And
what you
the
portrayed as
ally
very
of
bad judgment is not just judgment. It's not just judgment. You said something more. You said that his whole interpretation is a war of religion, while he may just have misinterpreted that. I don't think we should go into that in these details. I understand what
oh
you're
yeah, you
saying.
don't want to go into these
No, no,
details,
no,
but these are
no, Mike.
important.
Do you
These
want
are these are
do you want to open a 5 minute discussion over Azerbaijan now?
no, I want I look, the
You
world
made
is
your
a
point.
complicated
You made your
the
point.
world is a complicated place. The world
Yeah.
is a complicated place. And this guy was leading a rally outside of the Azerbaijan embassy. Azerbaijan is Israel's ally. And
Yeah, but
Israelis and pro-Israelis need to be smart. The world is complex. Not everyone who's a Muslim is against them. Not everyone who's a Christian
yeah,
is good, right? This is just and
but
this guy has a mixed record in my eyes of being somebody who's reading the map correctly and somebody that I personally want to associate with.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't say that he reads every conflict correctly. I'll just say, and you made your point. Um, I'll
That's only
just
one of my
say,
points. I have other points, but anyway, we'll stop
let's
there
save them for next show
because I
because I
see
feel
you're getting
I,
testy, and Big Dog doesn't want you to be testy.
no, I'm just looking at the clock and I'm seeing that when we were supposed to read readers' comments, we opened a new geopolitical discussion on a grand scale. I'll just say
Well,
two sentences
no,
and
but people just one last thing in my defense because there's a lot of angry comments about me there, right? And you know this about me. I don't want to go into details about this, but I know Britain pretty well, better than I know most other countries. I mean, after Israel, Britain is probably the country that I'm most familiar with, for very personal reasons. I have close family members who are British citizens, live and work in Britain, and I follow what goes on there. And I've been following Tommy Robinson for 10 years. Precisely with the question in my mind, is this somebody that I want to associate with? And I've revisited the question time and time again. I liked it, but I'm just saying because a lot of people on our comments, they met Tommy Robinson last week and they loved him, and they're telling me, "Oh, Mike, you're just an elitist and you've never met a working class guy before, and you have smug elitist attitudes toward authentic working class people, and so on and so forth." This is the kind of comments we're getting. This is not the case. This is not the case. I've known a lot of guys like Tommy Robinson over the years, and I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical about his character. Maybe he's grown up. Maybe the Tommy Robinson that we've seen the last few weeks is the guy that we're going to see for the next 10, 20 years. And in that case, I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy. I like his current tack, but I've seen where he's been in the past, and it's not somebody that I am going to jump into bed with.
yeah, there's a very curious push that I just got, and you'll say I didn't listen to you, but it was just so hair-raising that I'm going to read it to you.
Yeah.
The police is confirming that searches are being conducted after the Attorney General of the Army, General Advocate of the Army in the Cliff Beach. Is that an announcement that she might have committed suicide? I don't understand this. I don't know if we can leave this comment at the end of the show like this.
Wow.
Yeah, this is
So either she threw documents over the cliff, which doesn't make any sense, or she threw herself over the cliff.
Yeah, that is, well, if you wanted a dramatic end to the story we've been telling, this is certainly going to qualify, and I hope this is not true.
And this was a really great tactic to end the conversation on time.
No, Mike, when this airs, why don't you take a stopwatch and clock how long you've been talking about Tommy Robinson at the end? I'll just say you made your case. I'll just say two sentences. The last thing
we have to keep talking about it now.
The last thing that Israel should do now is attack people criticizing unlimited immigration, because we are going to lose the right, which is now the anti-Semitic parts of the right are saying that Jews promote unlimited immigration and are undermining the nation. Israel should not fall into this trap. And so long as Tommy Robinson is also on our side, we should support him. What he will do next, if he will betray the cause, I don't know. If he will, I'll stop supporting him. How's that?
You did a little Kevin Roberts there, because the issue isn't should Israel criticize. Israel doesn't have to say a word, right? Tommy Robinson right now, his tack is good. I just don't. He's somebody I don't want to be associated with. Don't want to do.
I had
it.
a
Which is a
very
different. I'm
interesting
not
interview with
opposing
him.
Huh?
I had a very interesting interview with him, and I recommend it to our viewers who have not checked it out.
He's a charismatic and intelligent and very courageous guy. All those things are true.
Yeah, and when he was
I
here,
don't
he
want my
also,
daughter to marry him.
yeah, but he defended Jews in Luton when it was hard. One of his friends who he tried to defend and whom he interviewed committed suicide in the end because of harassment by jihadists. But 10 years ago, Tommy Robinson screened that and stood up for this man's rights when people were throwing bricks through his windows. And that's, that's not just courageous. These are, we Jews and Israelis, we have to stand by people who protect from anti-Semitism. I'm not saying you're not, Mike. You're one of the fighters against anti-Semitism. No cynical tone in that. You're rock solid on this, and I appreciate it very much. But I think you're wrong on Tommy. Excellent. Shall we end up with something more jolly than suicides?
Do we have something? I don't know what we have. What do we have? We're done here, no?
I don't know. Some reader just commented. Someone who complimented us.
Big Dog says you're done. No, the only one I brought out was Tommy Robinson. There were lots of compliments.
Okay.
But I can't remember where they were off the top of my head.
And so I'll end with this optimistic statement. Hopefully, we will be able to upgrade our show soon. We can't tell you more, but it may be coming.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. It's not done yet. Not a done deal yet. But it looks.
No, we've just dismissed the Riverside platform that we tried was not good enough. We're going to do better. So thank you very much for staying with us the whole hour and a half or something that we've been going on. Much exciting news. Gaza on our next show. Please be good and don't drink while driving.